So this is part B of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel. Part B, timed at 21:20 GMT on Saturday, 18th of February 2023. The latest item contributed by a writer, a woman who writes about the NHS, and we have accessed it in the last few minutes via the Manchester Evening News website. Now, of course, Manchester is in Lancashire. And this is a very important piece because it actually explains from her empirical evidence, witness as a woman who has experienced menopause. It actually explains the implications of menopause on a woman, and it actually deepens the evidence of total wrongness, in fact, a criminality perpetrated by the Lancashire police against Nicola Bully. We shall come to that, and this is actually contextually citable as a seriously rampant regime of misogyny that says they're attacking a woman instead of desperately, urgently helping her is not only allowed, but that there is no real remedy when a group of people like the police in Lancashire decides to mount an attack on a woman who has been now more than 3 weeks described as missing and not found. So, and this actually links the narrative to the demonization by the UK of these three schoolgirls from Tower Hamlets, Shamima Begum, Abbasi, and Khadija Sultana, and of course add to them the previous one that left the UK in December 2014, Sharmina Begum, not Shamima Begum, but Sharmina Begum. And according to the latest accounts published in the mainstream UK media, Sharmina appears to have survived and is, according to those reports, with, quote, ISIS. And of the three other girls that left the UK in February 2015, Shamima is the only one who is reported to be alive. Amira Abbasi and Khadija Sultana are reported to have died or been killed in a bombing. Now, the demonization of Shamima Begum, and by implication, the demonization of two schoolgirls who are reportedly no longer alive, didn't take place against an empty background. The fact that these are girls, Shamima Begum is a female rather than a male, was taken as an additional ground to attack her. regardless of anything that objectively, verifiably, she might have done against the law or against the safety of the country. So far, the only person that has actually acknowledged that fact that Shamima Begum has not committed a crime, anyone who has actually been associated with the Fleet Street media, is Martha Gill in the London Evening Standard dated the 15th of February. Now, the misogyny applied against Shamima Begum, I mean, it is absolutely rampant. No one has considered, well, this program is an exception because we have been talking about all of these for years. But when I say no one, I refer to the collective and individual institutions and outlets in the media, including the Manchester Evening News, which is now talking about about the menopause affecting Nicola Bully. Now, I'll come back to Shamima Begum and the role of the Tahrir Council and this program. Hopefully, the internet will be connected because there is a problem. There has been a problem, frequent interruptions and disconnections during programs. Let's check if we can find the Manchester Evening News piece about Shamima Begum. Sorry, about Nicola Bully. Internet connection is beginning to behave erratically. So let's hope it continues not to behave erratically. According to this writer in the Manchester Evening, okay, so this piece on the Manchester Evening News website, which is posted timed at 1946, today, less than 2 hours ago, is written by Helena Vesti, who is described as NHS social care and corrections writer. The headline to her piece is Police mentioning menopause in Nicola Bully's case is wrong. And then she says definitively with confidence, this, that is to say, the collection of experiences that Nicola Bully has been going through is what menopause really is like. So she says, and there is a quote there, it feeds the narrative, that is the police mentioning menopause, it feeds the narrative that women, well, it's a spelling mistake, let's hope, women are mad and unpredictable and emotional. All of these stereotypes are alive in that statement. And it's what women are fighting against. Absolutely right. So let's go down into the main copy, the body of the copy, and it says well, there is an intro before the body of the, so the intro is a summary. Lancashire Police's disclosure of personal information about missing Nicola Bully led to a backlash. Members of the public, politicians, and charities claimed police were guilty of victim blaming after police revealed Nicola's struggles with the menopause and alcohol. Now, menopause coach and gender equality consultant Kate Asha has shared her story. Now, we shall come to Kate Asha elsewhere later. Writing for the Manchester Evening News, she explains the reality of the menopause and how its impact can be devastating for some women. For Kate, the seismic change led her to a dark place. Before my menopause started to reveal itself, I had heard of four symptoms: hot flashes, mood swings, weight gain, and insomnia. I had also heard it could affect my sex life, but had no idea how. To be honest, I thought it would be similar to a bad period, that is, the women's period, and would last no longer than a year. 8 years and 30 symptoms later, I know how naive and ill informed I was. As a society, there is a perception that menopause is an older women's condition. There are two reasons for this. Firstly, until the turn of the 20th century, only a lucky few lived until the age of menopause. That is, only a lucky few women lived until the age of menopause. Many of those who did died shortly after. That is, many of those who did live until menopause died shortly after having the menopause. It was essentially an end of life experience. This is absolutely no longer the case, but we are still referencing those centuries old expectations today. The other part of this is how women over the age of 40 were shown or not shown in films, television, and magazines. None of it was positive. Thankfully, this is changing. This is Kate. This is the piece that is in the first person. It's a picture of Kate who is shown as who is described in the caption of the picture as someone who lives in London and is a mom to two children. She looks like Nicola, who has got two girls. The average age of menopause is 51 in this country. The average age women will be when they experience symptoms is between 45 and 55. At the point we might start these, we can have no we can have on average nearly 40 years of life to live, and importantly almost 20 years of career to achieve our ambitions. Those experiencing menopause do not live in isolation. I guarantee that we all at some time in our life have worked, lived, or interacted with someone struggling with symptoms and not understood what is going on. Menopause is no longer a women's issue to be managed in the shadows alone. Menopause is an everyone issue. Lastly, I think one of our biggest misconceptions is that it will be over within a year. Menopause itself lasts a year. In fact, it is 12 months after your last period. But for most women, 40 go on for many years and for some over a decade. For the unlucky few, there are some symptoms like hot flushes and insomnia that will remain with them for the rest of their lives. So, Kate Asha has got another picture in the piece, and it describes in the caption Kate Asha is a gender equity consultant and a menopause coach. Back in text copy of the piece. Menopause impacted every relationship I had. It dragged me into a very dark place where I feared I would lose my marriage, my children, and importantly, myself. I did the only thing I knew would help, and that was start talking. I had to vocalize what was going on the inside in an attempt to explain what was going on the outside. My fabulous husband and I talked about my menopause again and again. Over the years, we have very much worked it out together. It has definitely brought us closer and made us stronger. When my menopause started, only one of my friends had experienced it. The rest simply went in the phase of life. The isolation I felt was crushing. If it wasn't for that one, I'll read that again. If it wasn't for that one friend coming to my rescue, I'm not sure what would have happened. Just having one person who listened and understood changed everything. I found work relationship extremely challenging. I would have to explain why I was sweating profusely or forgetting my words. I had to face my own talking about it and at the same time manage other people's. I had to learn on the job, so to speak, how to talk about menopause and take control of the situation. I had anxiety and depression mixed with severe sleep deprivation due to insomnia and night sweats. I had gone from someone who thought they were pretty invincible to someone who could barely get out of the door in the morning to take her young children to school. I had trained as a psychotherapist and life coach many years before. It was an obvious decision to use my skills to find a path out. One of the key realizations I had very early on was that while I couldn't control my symptoms, I could control what happened next. This tiny grain of control helped me build a foundation that gave me the stability I had lost. Kate has slammed the police's decision to reveal Nicola's health concerns. I talk about menopause every day. It is now my career. I'm driven to ensure others don't suffer in the way I did, that they retain and develop So this has been going on for 23 minutes, this particular edition, part B. So let's see if we can take a look at Shamima Begum. Well, this is an item that is not new because it's a piece that we have referred to before. It says that the tribunal to rule on Shamima Begum's citizenship case next week. Now, that is in the Evening Standard, but the next one, I think, is going to be a hostile one. It's disguised as charged times, but it is bound to be a hostile, anti Muslim item. TV review, and it says Shamima Begum's story. Well, this is one of the number of stories that they're doing the review. Surely we can all tell when someone is telling the truth. One of the few indicators that my advancing years bring increasing wisdom is the realization that actually I often can't. Sometimes in really serious matters. This is a statement by this woman called Gillian Craig, dated the 17th of February, which is yesterday. And we shall go back to the Shamima Begum story, BBC Two, Tuesday of last week, and iPlayer challenged our trust. How truthful is this young woman? One of the three schoolgirls who left home in Bethnal Green in 2015 to join the self proclaimed Islamic State Caliphate. This is radio, 10th February. The documentary fleshed out her own account with a conflicting range of voices and opinions. Now, let's check the phrase flesh out, because this Gillian Craig is a liar, as I predicted seconds before I started reading this piece bearing her byline. Being in the Church Times, I suspected that it would be an anti Muslim piece. And it was, and it is. Let's see what this says as a meaning of flesh out. Flesh out, synonym of flesh out, to provide more information about something, to make something more complete by adding details. You need to flesh out your plan with more details. So that is fleshing out. The Merriam-Webster, the name Miriam or Miriam is misleading because it sounds like the name of a woman, but it's not. It's a surname of one of the people who founded this dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary in the USA. And according to my experience, the Merriam-Webster is one of the better accessible dictionaries. It says provide more information about something to make something more complete by adding details. You need to flesh out your plan with more details. She fleshes out characters in her novels very well. So that's the Merriam-Webster. So the documentary fleshed out her own account with a conflicting range of voices and opinions, ranging from those who consider that By throwing in her lot with a wild regime, she shares responsibility for its outrages. That is one side. To those who see her as an abused and trafficked child, having spent 14 years serving a neighborhood community and knowing something of its pressures, I, Gillian Craig, that is, am essentially sympathetic to her. Radical religious conviction, willfully blind to the morality of its charismatic leadership, is recognized and understandable youthful response to racism and dead end life expectations, exploited to our shame by Christian as well as Muslim extremists. Well, that is surprising. The paralysis, that fear of torture and death instilled in all but the most heroic surely explains why she didn't try to escape. The power of brainwashing to obliterate common sense. Morality is constantly underestimated by people who live comfortable and self determined being shared political and legal. Should she face justice in our courts to determine her innocence or guilt? But perhaps I am a gullible and she is a consummate liar, playing a long game to regain entry to Britain or well, that's the bit where it ends, the Gillian Craig piece. So it's a mixture of moderate objectivity and subtle hostility. But she doesn't talk about, really, she doesn't talk about racism. She doesn't talk about the fact that Shamima Begum, from age 15 up to the time she had the last child, was treated to severe mental pressures and distress. And she doesn't even raise the possibility, that is Gillian Craig, that this thug, the Dutch convert thug criminal, why do they keep referring to her in any capacity, while only scarcely, very superficially mentioning this criminal, the so called Dutch convert, while they maintain that they are married? They're still married. What about him? What about his role? Why didn't they investigate his part in anything they insinuate, any wrong that they insinuate Shamima Begum committed herself? The only things that they have mentioned, which partially is correctly recognized by Martha Gill, and to some extent reflect view of the same program and Martha Gill's summary, the collection of published items that she asked. There is absolutely no recognition of any interaction between this Dutch criminal and Shamima Begum. The only mention made of him commenting was that after 10 or 12 minutes of meeting him, she agreed to marry him. How so we have been broadcasting, at least as the reading shows, for 38 minutes, including the interruptions. 38 minutes, 37 seconds. So we talk about Shamima Begum, I think, quite extensively. Now going back to the general barometer, moral, ethical, evidential barometer, the banner Baby Angel Geronimo. Now, Baby Angel Geronimo can say, as the world's exclusive witness to the evilness that is collectively and singularly committed by various agencies in the United Kingdom state. When baby angel Geronimo was being referred to in the so-called courts of law, all of them high court in the context of the high court hearings, one after the other, three separate high court kind of, within quotes, judges. The judges, despite baby angel Geronimo can only be described as innocent, universal, objective, transparent, innocent. That time, the latest one that happened in the, let's say, summer of 2021, 3 calendar years ago, the then newly returned to the Financial Times senior writer, senior reporter called Chris Cook was writing about the length to which UK government employees would go in order to hide what he was meaning contextually, hide the untruthful behavior and assertions and statements of, quote, ministers. So let's see if we can trace that item back. So that's Chris Cook. For here, civil servants, ministers, ft.com. Now, this is the headline. I said civil servants, but the heading on the online piece that I have just accessed is opinion. It's published under opinion, and it's an opinion piece about the UK government. And its heading, whoever wrote the heading, maybe one sub-editor or Chris Cook himself, UK officials are going to great lengths to keep their secret secret. Now notice the laid back way that Chris Cook's headline is. It's not an emergency situation. It's not a life and death situation. It's not a terrorist situation. But essentially, it is about life and death. It is about the right of the UK government officials to find somebody so guilty as to confidently decide to want them dead. That is what the succession of High Court judges were told to do by succession of government department employed lawyers appearing before the judges separately on behalf of the UK Department for, let's get the full word. What does DEFRA mean? Well, DEFRA is, so the UK government website describes it as Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. And today's banner on the website, on the DEFRA website, defrajobs.co.uk says, the world is a precious place. Together, we can keep it that way. Now, these criminals, the DEFRA criminals and cunts, obviously make an exception when it comes to the supremely innocent baby angel Geronimo. For 4 long, ceaseless years, these criminals abused the power they are given because they are employed as government officials. And these cunts said to the judges that baby angel Geronimo was ill, that baby angel Geronimo was unhealthy, that baby angel Geronimo was infected, none of which was true, none of which is true, none of which can ever be true. The human being who raised baby angel Geronimo and acted as his human mom in his country of birth, New Zealand, refers to baby angel Geronimo just another human child, cheeky, mischievous, and absolutely adorable. So, this baby angel Geronimo, when he came to England at the invitation of the human being, Helen MacDonald, in 2017, baby angel Geronimo was absolutely lovable. But in order to keep her stewardship of this baby angel Geronimo, Helen MacDonald, a very caring and considerate and conscientious individual herself, went out of her way to incur extra costs and make arrangements for baby angel Geronimo to be housed in a space of his own, separating himself, that is, baby angel Geronimo, from all the other members of the species that Helen MacDonald was caring for. Alpacas is a member of the camelid family of creatures. The fact that Helen MacDonald went to that extent, that distance, to ensure that baby angel Geronimo never came into physical contact with any other animal of any species, was ignored by the evilness called Christian evilness middlemiss at the DEFRA department. Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. And Christian Middlemiss, directly herself as the evilness, and through her deputies and line managed or line mismanaged agents, kept giving the lying instructions to the lawyers to convey to the stooge judges who kept creating absolutely without any foundation scenarios, profiles suggesting that baby angel Geronimo was ill. He never was in those periods. And in order to objectively test the veracity of the lies being perpetrated by DEFRA, Helen Macdonald tried her best and made hundreds of requests, to the criminals at DEFRA saying, let's test baby angel Geronimo independently by applying objective independent criteria of test. Now, any logical, common sense possessing individual, rational human being would say, yes, let's do it. But they didn't. They resisted that to the point where the three stooge judges in the High Court went along with the irrationality and kept giving rubber stamp agreements with the stupid, idiotic, unscientific, unproven, irrational, cruel agenda against baby angel Geronimo that had been cooked up by the DEFRA morons and criminals. Now, in his piece, Chris Cook, who is, although he is described as a senior reporter and worked as the political editor at the Newsnight program on BBC Two, is a stupid individual. Stupid in the context of the actual extent to which government departments and government department employed individuals and government ministers commit crimes every single day. Because it's not just that piece that he wrote in August 2021, Chris Cook, but a later piece he wrote about in the Financial Times about the Charity Commission exhibited similar idiocy and ignorance on the part of Chris Cook. Now, where do you go? Where do you go when people like Chris Cook, described as senior journalist on the Financial Times and who acted, not only described, but he's acted as the editor. For fuck's sake, what was he editing with his stupidity? Editor, by definition, implies superior abilities compared to the ones that are edited, if you like. So, in his piece about the Charity Commission, Chris Cook said that Charity Commission could not regulate many of the charities because it lacked power. Now that shows that Chris Cook is not only an idiot about Charity Commission, but an idiot about the English British constitutional law, British Parliament, and British courts. So therefore, if Chris Cook of the Financial Times, and you cannot in Fleet Street come across a more untypical kind of paper because it's not a tabloid. The size is not tabloid, and most of the headlines are bombastic, unlike the headlines in the, let's say, Daily Star or the Scum or the Daily Express or even the Daily Mirror or the Daily Mail. If the Financial Times carries a piece about the Charity Commission needing power, then people, unlike those like us, because we read and access and study actual contents contextually and topically and generally, the contents of newspapers, contents of the parallel radio broadcasts and television broadcasts. Most people who are categorizable as Sun readers on the Daily Mail readers don't read anything other than those particular individual titles. And by definition, they are devoid of access to other sources other than the one title that they read. So, taken collectively, those people, about 90% of those so called readers, Sun readers, Daily Mail readers, wouldn't know anything different from what they were being told. But we know that the piece that Chris Cook wrote about the Charity Commission needing more powers was abrupt and stupid and ignorant. And that there is a thing called common law. Every government decision making is done not by excluding the operation or relevance of common law. It is done by common law and legislation is added. And didn't consider Chris Cook didn't consider the actual experience of ordinary people whose complaints to the Charity Commission are ignored routinely. Given that it was a piece that Chris Cook wrote in August 2021, that is well before the current wide acceptance that the police in this country has disappeared, policing has disappeared. And it was, of course, well before the David Carrick rapes and sexual assaults came to light. And it is also before the now well established abhorrence of the police, London Metropolitan Police, because of the arrest, rape, murder, and the burning of the body of Sarah Everard. There is no way, there is no way that the Lancashire police releasing the information about Nicola Bully and her menopause could have done that if they possessed basic common sense. Now, if the police behave with manifest lack of basic common sense, then where do the victims of crime go to? When baby angel Geronimo was demonized, when he was defamed, when hundreds of requests by Helen MacDonald were being ignored by the evilness called Christian Middlemass, aided and abetted by the evilness called Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, leader of the Conservatives. There was no forum, and there is no forum now in operation, in place, anywhere, at any stage in the United Kingdom state with a big S, where independent, objective, neutral adjudication of the behavior of a state agency can be referred to and adjudicated, examined. What exists formally as judicial review option, judicial review is an option that is supposedly available to the victims of decisions made by a local council, decision made by a government agency, government department. But that is a complete and utter falsehood. That phrase, judicial review, is a lie. For a start, judicial review, when uttered, stated, sounds like it is just a call at a place and the review process begins. It doesn't. To get to the point of actual judicially reviewing a decision, it takes anything between 6 months to 2 years. And even after that, the certainty of getting any review is less than 5%. So when the media circulates the additional lie about the Lancashire Constabulary, that they have referred themselves to the independent police monitoring place or body, they're lying, because this independence is not independent, it's not rigorous, it's not fact based, it's not ethical, and it's not objective. And the policing in this country, as we have said, has ceased to exist about 70 years ago. So we shall be coming to an end to this particular edition at 1 hour, 1 minute, because of the length of things that we have to say and the complexity of the facts that we have to convey. We shall update on all of those issues. Plus, we shall update on the Financial Times Weekend FT, or FT Weekend, carrying the lunch with FT with a person from Switzerland. What's his name? It's a man called Patrick Odia. He is the Shion of one of the country's oldest banking dynasties. Yet he sees himself as radical in his industry. Over grilled cod and Pinot Noir in Geneva, he talks to Sam Jones about the art of counseling the very, very rich, taking risks on clients, and why Switzerland should move away from moral isolationism. Now, why Switzerland? Because Imran Khan of Pakistan has praised Switzerland, second to his praise for Britain, because Imran Khan has been wrong in praising Britain as well as praising Switzerland, and his praise has been based on the alleged existence, operation of a thing called rule of law in Britain and in Switzerland. And we have said that the facts show that there is no rule of law. So we shall be talking about Switzerland and the rule of law and the Imran Khan and the Hakiki Azadi in due course. And we shall be ending this edition, which is now 1 hour and 3 minutes and 21 seconds, as I say, we shall end.